The alarming new numbers on COVID in this country, and this trend even before Omicron. Also tonight, this major new mandate here in New York City, and all of this with cases of the new variant now seen in 18 states and counting tonight. Now, because of this surge we're seeing already in COVID, most of it Delta right now, tonight New York City expanding vaccine mandates, now requiring all private employers to make sure their workers are vaccinated, and extending this vaccine mandate in many indoor venues to children 5 to 11 years old. New York's mayor tonight calling it a preemptive strike as cases now spike across the country, up 27% in a week. And tonight, the U.S. Army now sending medical teams to Colorado, Michigan, and New Mexico just to help treat COVID patients. The nation now averaging 100,000 new cases a day, 24 states and Washington, D.C. seeing cases rise of more than 10% in the last week. New York's business mandate could affect more than 184,000 employers. And for the first time, that mandate affecting children 5 to 11, requiring at least one dose of vaccine for many of those indoor activities. There are also new details tonight about that cruise ship out of New Orleans. At least 17 fully vaccinated people testing positive, including a South African crew member. That's the Omicron variant. And now everyone traveling to the U.S. from abroad, including U.S. citizens, must test negative within 24 hours of taking off for the U.S. So far, the Delta variant is still driving what we're seeing in this country. But what Dr. Anthony Fauci is saying now about what we're seeing so far from symptoms with Omicron. ABC's Stephanie Ramos tonight leading us off here in New York.
Facing a COVID surge, driving cases up 27% across the country in the last week, along with the looming Omicron variant, New York City today expanding vaccine mandates in the nation's most sweeping plan yet. The mayor calling it a preemptive strike.
Vaccination is the central weapon in this war against COVID. It's the one thing that has worked every single time across the board.
Starting later this month, all private sector employees will have to have one dose of the vaccine. Children as young as 5 to 11 will now also need proof of one vaccine dose to enter restaurants, gyms, and entertainment venues. And anyone 12 and older will require 2 vaccine doses for all indoor activities.
New York now is really rushing this mandate like everybody now, and I just don't think that's right.
And today, a new rule going into effect for all international travelers coming into the country. Proof of a negative COVID test within 24 hours of takeoff.
There's not enough hours in the day to get a test done and be able to fly here. Had 18 and a half hours of flight time. If there's a delay or you miss a plane, then what are you going to do?
But for Elisa Long and her family, it's peace of mind.
It's like going into any business, no shirt, no shoes, no vaccine. You don't get to come in or you don't get to go travel.
The Omicron variant has now been detected in 18 states, and so far, officials have reported mild or moderate symptoms in those cases.
We really got to be careful before we make any determinations that it is less severe or really doesn't cause any severe illness comparable to Delta. But thus far, the signals are a bit encouraging regarding the severity.
The symptoms were mild for 30-year-old Peter McGinn from Minnesota, who tested positive for Omicron after returning from an anime convention in New York last month. He was fully vaccinated with a booster and was surprised.
I was just a little taken back to the fact that I, A, had COVID, and B, it was the new one.
McGinn suspects he was infected not at the convention, but when he and a group of about 30 people who were also vaccinated socialized without masks. Now, half of that group has tested positive for COVID.
I felt perfectly safe with the people that I was with, and so it never really crossed my mind to think that I had COVID. So it was more like those events outside of the con where I believe that the transmission took place.
And new details tonight on that cruise ship that docked in New Orleans. Health officials suspect another case of Omicron in a South African crew member. Before disembarking, another 16 of the 3,200 fully vaccinated guests and crew on board also testing positive for COVID.
Last night about 7, they said everybody's got to be tested all of a sudden. We all have to be tested, and they were making us all go. We were in the middle of our dinners, shows, everything.
All of a sudden, a lot of moving parts in this pandemic. Again, Stephanie Ramos with us tonight. And Steph, the U.S. military now sending more medical teams to support healthcare workers in the hardest hit states.
Right, David. Medical teams from the Army, Air Force, and Navy will be heading to Colorado, New Mexico, and Michigan. They'll include nurses, doctors, and respiratory therapists, and will be in position to support those on the front lines by the end of the week. David.
Stephanie Ramos leading us off on a Monday night. Stephanie, thank you.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.